On March 28, 2002, Japanese role-playing game Kingdom Hearts was released for the PlayStation 2. A collaboration between Final Fantasy developer Squaresoft, now Square Enix, and family-friendly media empire Disney, Kingdom Hearts combined iconic characters with an anime-style story about exploration, darkness, and the power of friendship. Now 20 years old, the franchise has become synonymous with both convoluted lore and the kinds of IP crossovers that would come to define the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's also, unfortunately, my favorite franchise of all time. Which is why, in the summer of 2018, I was so thrilled to back a Kickstarter for a little TTRPG titled Interstitial, Our Hearts Intertwined. Developed by Riley Hopkins and published by Linksmith Games, Interstitial is the definitive tabletop game to replicate the Kingdom Hearts experience. Using the Powered by the Apocalypse framework, Interstitial provides all the tools you need to traverse various worlds, smash IPs together, and weave your own indecipherable story about the ties that bind us. This review will cover the PDF copy distributed to Kickstarter backers in 2019, and may not represent the current edition of Interstitial. For full disclosure, I also went to Chicago and playtested the game after an improv show, RIP to improvised D&D, but I don't expect that will change my opinion too much. Interstitial is both setting agnostic and entirely dependent on setting. The biggest selling point of the Kingdom Hearts games is that they mash up two seemingly incongruous universes and earnestly engage with what the product of that union might look like. In this spirit, Interstitial encourages players to pick a setting from whatever properties they can think of. Hopkins literally advises GMs to ask what fanfiction players have written and base worlds off of those IPs, which is just such an endearing bit of text. The book does have a pre-made setting at the end, but I know people playing this game will want to base it off their own favorite media. To help GMs incorporate various worlds into a campaign, Interstitial provides a helpful tag system. When selecting a work, these tags suggest tones and tropes common in a particular property, and help you engage with the setting the same way the characters in the property typically would. For example, the films of Studio Ghibli are given the rural tag, meaning that though things are slow-moving and friendly, there's always the chance for something unnatural and strange to occur. On the other hand, places like Asgard and people like Chris Angel have the magical tag, encouraging your table to warp the fabric of reality and accept premises that will really freak your mind. I adore how lovingly this game treats the use of setting. From asking GMs to include properties their friends love, to key principles that ask players to consider how they would fit into a specific world, it's clear Interstitial is 100% genuine about its love of crossovers. Just look at this art of a character dueling with the Green Power Ranger. The game invites players to slam pieces together that don't seem to fit, wipe away the dust, and find out how they do. It also smartly advises GMs to not include too many NPCs and not linger in a world for more than 1 or 2 sessions. By constantly exploring new places, players will always have something fresh and interesting to engage with, and most importantly, link their hearts with an ever-evolving cast of characters. As Interstitial is powered by the Apocalypse, its primary verbs are checks conducted by rolling 2 6-sided dice. A result of 6 or under is a failure, 7 to 9 is a partial success, and 10 plus is a total success, which gives you a base success rate of 58%. You may increase or decrease the result of your die rolls by adding modifiers from your 4 stats: Light, Dark, Mastery, and Heart. Light governs your friendships and loved ones, Dark deals with rivalry, violence, and negative emotions, Mastery involves teaching, learning, or expertise, and Heart is about self-discovery, literally deciding you will change the way you act after following the example of another. It's complicated stuff, even for someone well-versed in Kingdom Hearts lore. However, the place where these stats shine is their implementation within Interstitial's links mechanic. Kingdom Hearts is a series all about the relationships you make with others, and how those relationships influence and change you as a person. Interstitial codifies that ethos by using links, which are the bonds your character has made with people throughout the course of play. These links fall into 4 categories which correspond with your 4 stats. However, just because you attempt to make friends with someone doesn't always mean that emotion is reciprocated. On a result of 9 or lower, there's always a chance the link you make is somehow twisted from your original intention, and on a 6 or lower, the GM may also give another person a link, further complicating your relationships. In spite of these possible downsides, you should be rolling for links as often as you can, because they can be expended to great effect. You can burn a link to gain an extra die during a roll, gain experience to level up, and most importantly, activate your playbook special abilities. Furthermore, you are presented with the option to roll with links instead of using your base value in a stat. If you made a lot of friends in your game, but your light stat is +0, You can roll with links to gain a greater bonus to your action. While the game gives players a set of standard actions everyone can perform, it really shines when you dig into the options provided to individual playbooks. The base game comes with 9 of these archetypes, ranging from your classic protagonist with the Chosen, to your evil antagonist with the Dark, and even an option to embody each world's sidekick characters with the Connected. Every playbook comes with a summary of its strengths and comparable fictional characters, which really helps understand the designer's intent for each class. I'm super impressed with the range of playstyles you can inhabit. Each playbook has 8 unique moves, a link ability, and a special advancement, allowing for fantastic diversity not only in team composition, but also diversity within the same class. I'll get more into advancements in a second, but you can also take moves from other playbooks when you level up, meaning you could play the same character type for every game and still end up with different abilities. The moves themselves are also thematically appropriate and interesting in both mechanical and narrative senses. PbtA gives designers an extremely long leash when it comes to the kinds of actions a move can depict, and Hopkins does a great job of using that latitude. I was a bit skeptical at this game's claim that combat wasn't its focus. You know the saying, the Keyblade itself incites to violence, but I was happily proven wrong. There's certainly options for fighting, but plenty of moves center on making connections, protecting others from harm, convincing people, or digging down inside yourself to find the strength to carry on. Furthermore, each playbook's move options are perfectly tailored to the character archetype they embody. The line, "You're not smart enough to be manipulated," sums up all of my favorite anime heroes of the past 2 decades. I mentioned earlier that you can earn experience by spending links. That's true, but you can also earn it through failing rolls, which happens roughly 42% of the time. When a character accumulates 5 experience, they can take an advancement, which lets them bump up a stat or unlock new moves from both their own and other playbooks. After 3 advancements, you unlock a class-specific move, or an advanced move, which allows you to do things like increase your harm clock, establish a base of operations, and even wild stuff like enact a prophecy that will come true. Eventually, you'll become so powerful that the game advises you to retire a character or switch into a different playbook. My favorite aspect of this advancement system is how much it encourages failure. It always sucks trying something cool and falling flat on your face, but PbtA games soften that blow by rewarding failure, giving you a reason to roll with your worst stats. The advancements you take throughout a campaign will feel meaningful and have an immediate impact on play, so you might as well try everything you can imagine and let the dice fall where they may. Due to the randomness of those rolls, Interstitial also mechanically incentivizes conflict resolution without combat. When you can only take 4 hits before you die, you have to pick your battles very carefully. But for a game that stresses the importance of relationships, it makes total sense for fighting to be so risky. You wouldn't want to hurt a future friend, would you? Even if you do get into a scrap that doesn't go well, Hopkins doesn't shy away from the consequences. He explicitly states that games are more fun when they have stakes, and I 100% agree. Some stories should end, and not get stretched out into interminable spin-offs and sequels and resurrections. No Mora. I really appreciate Hopkins putting their thumb on the scale and making clear to players that even though you may love a character, there's always time to find something new you could care about just as much. Straight up, I don't think Interstitial is a game for total newbies, either to Kingdom Hearts or TTRPGs in general. The link system is a bit crunchy and conceptual, and if you haven't at least played KH1 through 2, a lot of the references and nuances of the game will be lost on you. Though, if you're interested in seeing this system in action, I cannot recommend enough Hopkins' actual play podcast of this game, which is both a great way to learn how to play and objectively hilarious. Who it is for, however, is the rest of you dweebs squarely in the middle of the Venn diagram of people who think too much about dice mechanics and think too much about the philosophical implications of the heart and body being 2 separate things. If you're watching this, I'm guessing you're pretty deep into the indie TTRPG scene, which means you also are probably not super thrilled about the existence of the Disney media conglomerate. If you want a hit of that good old early 2000 nostalgia while supporting small creators, you should absolutely check out Interstitial. Worlds full of adventure, drama, and connection await you. And if, for some reason, this review is the thing that kickstarted your interest in the Kingdom Hearts franchise, I recommend you start with KH1 and buckle your seatbelt. There is so very much to learn. Hey everybody, thank you again so much for watching this video. I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to see these little projects. I just really love Kingdom Hearts, and I am so glad I got to share my favorite Kingdom Hearts tabletop game with you all. If you like this video, I would ask that you like and comment, especially if you think that you have like an indie game that you think would be really interesting for me to review. I'm always on the lookout for games with interesting premises or mechanics. If you like what I do here, you can follow me on Twitter at AaronSXL, where I mostly tweet about tabletop RPGs, but also health policy. If you actually want to hear me play this game, you can check out episode 51 of Mortified the Friendship Quest. That's at MortifiedPod on Twitter. But yeah, me and Layla and a couple of my other friends played Interstitial, and it was a great time. Highly recommend. Probably my favorite episode of that podcast. I also do another show, Bible Boys, where me and my ex-evangelical friends review Christian-adjacent media. That's at The Bible Boys on Twitter. Oh, and because this is a Kingdom Hearts thing, I just started a new podcast with Layla from Mortified and Josh from Bible Boys about Kingdom Hearts. Josh has never played the Kingdom Hearts games, so we're going to try to convince them that they're good, actually. So that's at Simple and Green on YouTube. It's a really, really fun time, especially if you know anything about the games. Yeah, and thank you all for watching. I hope to have another review up in about 2 weeks, but until then, may your heart be your guiding key.